I'd like to call to order the special call meeting of the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners for September 1st, 2020. I'll call the roll. Denning.
Here.
Nash.
Here.
Perigin.
Here.
Beasley Brown.
Here.
Wilkerson is here. First item is to approve the minutes. Again, I misspoke. This is the special meeting on the 15th of 2020. We're approving the minutes for September 1st, 2020. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? I'll call the roll. Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Municipal Order 2020-143, municipal order approving the probationary appointment of Stephen Butcher to the position of Parks Facility Maintainer 2 in the Parks and Recreation Department. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
We had a promotion from the cemetery. Recently, we promoted Randall Cochran to the Parks Maintenance Division as a crew leader, effective back in July, which created an opening at the cemetery. Seems cemetery has just kind of been behind all year with over and keeping up to staff, so we are recommending the appointment of Stephen Butcher. Stephen was a part-time worker for us and has done a great job at the cemetery. We advertised this internally, got 6 candidates, and interviewed and found that Stephen is the best suit for this position. He's, as mentioned, a valuable team member and has worked his role at the cemetery kind of in a leadership role already. Before coming to the city, he was at a trailer sales company maintenance tech, and also a grounds maintenance person at Falls Creek Falls State Park in Tennessee. And before that, he served our great country in the United States Army for 20 years. I think that, but we are recommending his appointment to the position of Parks Facility Maintainer 2 at the cemetery.
Are there any comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Next is Municipal Order 2020-144. Municipal Order approving the reappointments of Huda Melke and Chris Page, and appointment of Dr. Martha Sales to the Workforce Recruitment and Outreach Committee. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Again, reappointments. Huda has been there since the beginning and brings a wealth of knowledge from her background at Western. Chris is just ending a partial term, filling in when someone else moved on to another committee, and Dr. Sales has offered to help represent the Game Changers group in attaching to this committee as well. Are there any comments or questions?
Outstanding reappointments and appointment.
Anything else? I'll call the roll. Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Municipal Order 2020-145. Municipal Order approving the reappointments of Roddy Grimes and Jim Ed Holland to the Contractors Licensing Board. Motion by Wilkerson and second by Perigin. These are reappointments from groups that are designated to recommend for our approvals. And I'll forward them to you. Are there any comments or questions? Slim?
Mayor, do the people who are appointed by the city have to live in the city?
No, sir, this is a joint board which removes that requirement.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Actually, it ends up being a joint appointment between the city and the county. So
Understand.
any other comments? I'll call the roll. Denning,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Municipal order authorizing accepting bid number 2020-64 for extrication equipment from Finley Fire Equipment Company doing business as Bluegrass Fire Equipment of McConnellsville, Ohio, in the amount of $71,844.65. Motion by Wilkerson and second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
In the FY21, which fell through back in June, we included this equipment replacement for the fire department. Chief Colson has been in the process of changing out, replacing his gas-powered extrication equipment. It's had seen its best days and had some quite a bit of years on it, and so we are in the process. This is, I think, the second round of purchasing to go to like a lithium battery-powered type equipment for the jaws of life and extrication equipment that the fire department uses. We did not go out. This could not be just a low-cost bid. We want to make sure this is important stuff, so we like to test drive it. We like to get our hands on it and make sure it meets our needs. So we did an evaluated bid based 50% on price, 25% on specifications, 15% on field evaluations, and a 10% weight on warranty. Through the process, Jason Colson, Chief Colson's group, evaluated the proposals. There were 4 that came in, and they are recommending Finley Fire Equipment. They had the best price, and I think they had the second best they had the best in the specs as well, and best in the field evaluation. So their overall criteria, their points they received were the highest. So Chief Colson is recommending that we go with the Finley Fire Equipment, which carries the Hurst brand extrication equipment. I have Chief Colson on here with us in case you all have any questions on this purchase.
Are there any comments or questions, Dana?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Colson, I just was looking at the evaluated bid columns, and I saw that, I guess maybe the second place bidder, it was a lifetime warranty, and they came out first in field evaluation. And so I just, I don't really know what goes into a field evaluation, and just want to make sure we're getting you all what you need.
Sure, no, that's a good assessment. Yeah, the lifetime we consider to be 15 years. So in comparing the brand that you're referring to and the brand that we're recommending, it's the difference between a 10-year as compared to the lifetime, which is considered 15 years. And you're right, the Genesis brand tool was the tool that crews preferred from through a series of tests that they put those through, which I think I described. They evaluated speed, size, balance, battery access controls, those types of things. So generally, they liked the way those tools performed, and they were a little faster overall. But when you evaluate the other components such as price and the performance specs and the forces that the Hurst brand puts out, we feel that our overall best value and it still meets the performance requirements and was evaluated well in the field is the brand that we're recommending.
So in the field, when they tested it, in terms of the ones that we've chosen, it still received, they still liked that one, or they felt like it would be a good tool for them. I just know that in this situation, right, this is seconds count.
Sure.
And so for me, when I'm looking at this, if the other one is faster, that might literally be the difference because of how, when we use this is in those situations where every second counts.
Sure, and perhaps I should have shared the background, just to give you the background. In FY18 and FY19, we began the process of replacing or converting two battery-operated tools. So our recommended tool, the recommended brand, we've been running that brand, these same tools since FY18. So this is not a conversion. We already have 9 battery-operated tools that are of the brand that we're recommending to buy additional tools. So when we put this bid out, we wanted to give the major tool manufacturers an opportunity to compete, even knowing that we'd already bought about $70,000 worth of battery-operated equipment. So we put this out, to encourage competition. We also add a lot of trade-in options, so on and so forth. With our goal of having full complements with standardized batteries, and we don't want different brands. We'd like so just to, and I appreciate the question, but we're already using the brand that we're recommending, and we've not had any issues. And when I say speed, we're talking a matter of a few seconds over the course of multiple cuts or performance tests. So the speed is not as it's not as critical or not as big of a difference as you might expect.
Well, with that context, it makes total sense. So thanks for explaining that to me.
Should have started there, perhaps. So.
Any other comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes, that fire chief spends too much money.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Paisley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson's yes. Municipal Order 2020-147, municipal order authorizing software subscription services from Tyler Technologies Incorporated in the amount of $132,722.84 for fiscal year 2021. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
Our IT director is also wanting to speak here tonight. So this is a maintenance, annual maintenance contract with Tyler software package. Tyler provides us the New World system, which has in it the financial management suite, payroll and HR, community development, procurement with Maryland, and some eSuite capabilities for people to get online and do things. And so this is an annual cost we have to incur just to keep the thing up and running. This is a very important non-public safety software system. So Lynn negotiated with Tyler and got them down to just a slight increase from last year, and it came in at the 132 number. This is roughly, I calculated around $360 a day to keep this thing up and running and going smoothly, which we need. This collects all of our property taxes, pays the bills, pays our people, keeps track of all our permitting, inspections, and all that kind of thing, and a lot of our bids and contracts. So important piece. With you in your packets is just a detailed itemized invoice of what actually we're getting in the 132. Shows you all the support and updating of the licensing on each package we maintain. So Lynn is not with us, but I will try to answer any questions you might have and ask that you approve this invoice.
Are there any comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes,
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Municipal Order 2020-148, municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2021-07 for Kenton Street drainage improvements from Infinity Pipeline Incorporated of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the amount of $430,551.40. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
This is another project you all approved the budget. And this is the 1200 block of Kenton. It's a pretty dated system that we need to address. As Greg mentioned in his memo, it's a ditch and shoulder system. You've got the open drain right there by Poston's Electronics on the corner of Broadway and Kenton. We've actually had a car accident in that ditch. And so what we're planning on doing is going in and repiping a lot of this. There will be a new basin created over there behind the new Spencer's Coffee. But within this project, we're going to take on the new drainage infrastructure, build the basin, put some dry wells in, put the new storm structures in, piping. We'll also go in and redo curb and gutter in places, as well as sidewalk, and make all of the ADA compliant ramps, put them where they need to be, and then the pavement repair. We went out for bid. This is just a straight low bid, and we got four proposals. And we are recommending the Infinity Pipeline Inc. company, $430,000 do this. And they are expecting to complete all of this by March of next year. All of this will be paid out of the Stormwater Fund. And would like to turn this over to Greg if you all have any questions on this project. Greg's here with us today.
Are there any comments or questions? Dana?
No question, just a comment. I'm just grateful that we're addressing this issue. I used to live on Indianola Street, and so I'm very familiar with when it rains, how really bad it gets and dangerous and scary. So I'm really glad we're addressing it. And I know this is just a small little piece of all the aging stormwater infrastructure that we have, but I know this was a very a severe one that we had. So grateful that we are able to start improving that area and making it safer for our residents. Thanks.
Any other comments? I'll call the roll. Denning,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Municipal Order 2020-149, municipal order authorizing and accepting bid 2021-08 for fiscal year 2021 street overlay from Scotty's Contracting and Stone LLC of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the amount of $1,528,977.01, and further authorizing staff to add additional streets to this unit price bid for a total project amount not to exceed $1,800,000. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Musil.
This is our FY21 overlay bid. We went out for bids back a couple weeks ago, and we received two. One was declared non-responsive. They were missing quite a bit of paperwork that was required. And so that left Scotty's Contracting. Scotty's was actually the lower cost anyway. This is another straight low cost bid. We're going to recommend Scotty's for $1,528,976. Also allow for additions up to $1,008,000. We are proposing to go ahead and to throw in the cemetery Prairie View number 2. That's on the Covington side, to go ahead and replace the drive-through in the cemetery while we got the opportunity here. Money would come from the Parks Capital Fund, and so that we're estimating that to be another $300,000 range added on or less to get to that $1,008,000. If there's any left over, you guys are giving Greg the authority to add and myself to add other streets if we have any money left over. But recommending the bid go to Scotty's for the overlay and being paid for out of the liquid fuel tax and the Parks Capital. Greg, do you have, I missed anything?
No, that's it.
I think Joe had his hand up first. Joe?
Thank you, Mayor. When will we, Jeff, get a breakdown of the streets that are going to be involved?
That's in your packet. It's right behind the memo, Joe.
Okay.
Should be in there.
I can't remember, but
No, like to eventually.
Kentucky Street up around what, will that be a part of our program? Where all the bumps at and where all the pavement is?
Kentucky
Got
Street.
holes in it?
Kentucky is a state road, and I think the state is in the process of working on that. Correct, Greg?
Yes, yes, it's on their resurfacing list, and of course, money is shy based upon the gas tax, so they're going to work it in as quickly as possible. So look for that to be pretty soon. I think it's one of the worst shaped roads in our area in terms of state road. So
Thank you, Greg.
Sue,
Yeah, I was just hoping that, that Greg could let the public know where they can find out where these streets are. It's usually on the website. And just it's for the general public to know how they could go about finding out if their street is there, if it's, what's the list and the priorities.
sure, great question. It'll be posted tomorrow morning on the website. It'll be a featured link. Plus, you can go in through the public works portion in terms of departments in the city to be able to see that list. So look for it in the morning, first thing. It'll be on the website.
any other comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning,
Yes,
Nash,
Yes,
Perigin. Sue, did you vote yes? I missed it.
I think
Thanks,
she's
Sue.
frozen.
Frozen. Okay, Beasley Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Next is Municipal Order 2020-150, municipal order approving the Disadvantaged Business Enterprises Plan for the City of Bowling Green Transit Program and authorizing its submission to the Federal Transportation Administration. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
This is a requirement of the FTA, and it's the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Plan that we are required to update every 3 years. I'm going to turn this over to Brent, let him give you a brief overview of this program.
Sue, hang on for a minute. Sue, I was recording your vote as yes. I thought you said yes, but I had to double
Yeah.
check.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry
thank
about
you.
that. I just got booted off.
No problem.
Sorry. Back on.
Okay. Go ahead, Brent.
All right, thank you, Mayor, City Manager. So the DBE plan is a required plan based on FTA regulations, and it covers disadvantaged business enterprises, which is kind of a combination title for what we used to call minority business enterprises and woman-owned business enterprises, or MIMBY-WIMBYs. Now it's all kind of grouped under DBEs, or disadvantaged business enterprises. We have to have this plan as part of our operation of a transit system here in Bowling Green. We utilize the state of Kentucky's DBE certification process through the Transportation Cabinet. And what this plan outlines and sets is a goal for us as part of our transit program for us to achieve that goal and part of our contracting opportunities. So the city of Bowling Green has already contracted with 2 firms for the provision of transit, RATP Dev for the management, and we're working with Community Action for the operations side of it. But this plan also extends to them as they go out and procure other services to set that goal to achieve that and work with disadvantaged businesses as part of that incorporation into the transit program. So that's the really high level view of it, and I'll entertain any specific questions. Slim?
my question only had to do with, we lost Ashley, and she records the minutes of the meeting, and I didn't know if that was a problem.
The meeting's continuing to be recorded so she can pick it up.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments for Brent? Dana?
Yes, Brent.
Mhm.
If a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business wanted to get certified to be able to bid out as one of the contractors, how would they do that? And then two, how would they find out when opportunities do come available to bid
Mhm.
on a project?
Yeah. So the Kentucky State Transportation Cabinet handles that certification process. So they handle it for the entire state. So what I'd recommend if you talk to a woman or minority-owned business that was interested in those contracting opportunities, is that they go to the kytc.ky.gov, the Kentucky State Transportation website, and it's under the Office of Civil Rights. And in there, we'll have the DBE certification process, and then there's an application they can fill out, and then they'll be added to the registry. And so it's not just to get in on any transit opportunities, but as being part of that registry, makes you available for contracts, also as part of any transportation-related projects across the country. So what we often see is many of those on that list are related to highway engineering, highway construction type projects, because obviously there's a lot more funding in that category. Here locally, we can pull down the list that the state maintains, and then we look out and see if we can find any in our area that are interested. If they are interested, Community Action has opportunities, so they could contact them as our operations contractor, or they could contact Stephen with RATP Dev as our management contractor. The city's kind of already contracted everything else out as part of the program.
So if there isn't a website that opportunities get advertised on that they could go to locally?
Yes. So anything here locally that we would have, they could also go to pgky.org/transit. Is that correctly? That's the city's transit website that we have on our page, or through our bids page. And we also have launched just this week a Facebook page for GoBG Transit here locally that Stephen has pulled together for us so we could stay and post information through Facebook as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning,
I said yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Next is Municipal Order 2020-151, Municipal Order approving Title VII Civil Rights Plan for the City of Bowling Green Transit Program and authorizing its submission to the Federal Transit Authority. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Same thing.
This item is also related to transit and is also a requirement of FDA to update our civil rights plan. In your packets it's the civil rights plan that we're going to submit to the FDA. Again, here for any questions you might have.
Any comments or questions? Dana?
That's another question for Brent. So on the list that currently serves on the board for the advisory board for the transit system, it breaks it down by gender and race. And it looks like there's no African Americans currently serving on the advisory board. And so I was just wondering, how did that board get appointed, and what are the plans moving forward to make sure that this advisory board represents our city how it's currently needed?
Yeah, so the Transit Advisory Committee was set up under Community Action as the kind of turnkey operator under previous and has sat idle for some time. There was an attempt to restart it back right before COVID hit, and whenever we could all actually sit down and have meetings together as human beings. So it's kind of been put on hold with that. But now that we've changed the paradigm of how transit is delivered, Stephen, the transit manager, will be responsible for organizing that board, meeting, developing, and looking for other opportunities. So it's generally been focused on people that represent transit-dependent populations. And so he'll be looking for additional members to look at what are some other groups that are impacted by transit and transit service decisions. So that way we could have a group to kind of advise him on how this impacts out to the community.
Thanks.
Joe?
Along with what Commissioner Brown just said, besides the board, when we take a look at office structure that will be involved, we need to make sure that we do our very best to have a cross-section of individuals in those jobs. And that may include bus drivers, whatever the case may be. I would just like to see the staff, ever how many it is, be representative of our community.
Understand.
Other comments or questions?
Hey, just one other thing, Mayor. And Brent,
Yes, sir.
just something, in past agencies and others that slips by, then all of a sudden you got a large number of other individuals and no place for minorities to be hired. In other words, the number is already full, and we still hadn't reached that goal of having minorities in the respective spots that may have been available.
Understand.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Harrigan?
Yes.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Municipal Order 2020-152, municipal order authorizing the approval of a water storage agreement between the U.S. Department of the Army, represented by the district engineer, and the city of Bowling Green, Kentucky, for reallocated water storage space in Barren River Lake. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Harrigan.
This is an agreement that BGMU is asking us to participate in as another party. Hillary has worked on this with BGMU. We also have Mark Irish. This is basically for extra water during drought. So I'll let Hillary give you an overview, and Mark can finish however. Hillary?
Yes, it is, as Mr. Meisel said, an agreement for additional water supply they're going to store for us in the case we had a water shortage. It's an agreement I think they've been working on with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for years. Gene reviewed it when he was still here. That's how long it's been going on. I've reviewed it again. I know it was on the BGMU board meeting last night and they approved it. The agreement is, it looks really good to me. If you have specific questions, Mark can answer them, but I think it's been in negotiations for a long time and something that BGMU feels like that we need in case we did have a water shortage.
Joe, did you have a question?
Mark, where are we going to store it?
It's actually stored. It's already stored behind the dam. It's an operational agreement that we have an allocation of that stored water, and when we need it in periods of drought, we just have an arrangement with the Corps to release that water, send it down the river, and then we just, at our intake structure, take it out and supplement what we already have.
Barren River Lake.
Barren River Lake, yes. This is the study that we had reference to. So we looked at this back in the early 2000s, and it looked at 7 different options under 5 different water demand scenarios. And by a factor of many multiples, this was the cheapest, most cost-effective way, is to have an arrangement with the Corps to essentially have an allocation behind the dam and send it down. We don't have to have any pump stations or piping or anything else that we have to maintain. It's just essentially just open up the gate and let the water come down the river.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions? I'll call Sue, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to say, Mark, thanks for being so proactive. I've lived here long enough to have seen the time when we had to ration our water. But how would this water last a month, a week, or what kind of remedy?
So this agreement is an allocation of 3,875 acre feet. So think of a foot of water over 3,800 acres at 14 million gallons a day. That would be a good supplement to the normal river flow. That would give us about a 90-day supply. And that should get us through a typical drought period.
Right. Sounds great. Thank you.
This is a decent arrangement. And one matter of clarity, there are some financial obligations. These will not be obligations that the city is responsible for, won't be on the general fund. Those will be on BGMU, and we have a cost share arrangement with us in the Warren County Water District.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dana?
I just want to echo Sue and say thank you for working on this agreement. As you know, we definitely have experienced drought, and knowing that we have this for future droughts is really important. I had one question in regards to in your study. I mean, obviously, if we're having a drought, it's very possible that upstream there's a drought and could reduce the water, upstream. And I don't know if there's other communities above us upstream that also have these agreements where they can pull from the water as well. So I was just wanting to know in terms of, depending on how extreme the drought, does that sort of change what's there? Or because of the dam, it's always going to be what we need no matter how severe the drought is?
Yeah, well, that's a fair question. So it's not a guarantee. So it's an allocation if the water is there. So if you had spring rains never showed up, and it never got up to summer pool, there's some scenarios where that could play out that way. But there were actual 2 studies. That's why it's taken 15 years. There were actually 2 studies performed by the Corps that looked at different cycles of water and water tables behind the dam and what that looked like and how this arrangement interacted in those different types of scenarios. As to other communities, there are 2 other communities that have allocations behind the dam, Glasgow, the city of Glasgow, and the city of Scottsville. They actually have intake structures on the dam that they draw directly out of the dam. And so we would be sort of competing with that. We've got, I guess, the larger of the allocations, but obviously they've got direct draw out of the lake. I don't anticipate that this would really be an issue that we have to deal with. One point, I guess, just to acknowledge those that have kind of worked on this. Mike Gardner, our water sewer manager, is the one who has really brought this all forward for 15 years, engaged with the Corps engineers, both at the Louisville office and as it made its way to Washington, D.C. And John Dix with Warren County Water District has partnered with him as well in this process.
All right, anything else? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes?
Perigin?
Yes.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Next is municipal order 2020-153, municipal order accepting donation from United Way of Southern Kentucky for a Pnc Learning Village at Roland Bland Park. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
This is an exciting project. Brent Belcher got word of this several months back. This is the donation that PNC is making to United Way, which will then turn it over to us to build the music garden down at Roland Bland Park. This will be in conjunction with the all-inclusive playground that you all approved last meeting. They're proposing to give up to $200,000 to build what they call the Pnc Learning Village. It's basically playful, colorful music instruments that children, I think ages from birth to 8, can go play on. They'll be surrounded by like a little town-looking structures. You'll have a bank and a marketplace, a fire station, and it'll be really cool looking. Benches for parents to sit and watch, but this will all be tied in with our all-inclusive playground that we have planned. And actually the same contractor that's doing the all-inclusive will also do some of the work with this as well. So a very exciting project at no cost to the city and all to the benefit of the citizens of Bowling Green, all happening at Roland Bland Park. Be glad to try to answer any of your questions.
So I think you had your hand up.
I'm using the computer hand raise function. Is that okay, or just a?
I don't see it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Way thanks to PNC Bank. What a great community partner. I really want to say thanks to them for stepping up and recognizing that that these kids are going to have a blast. It's going to turn some of these children into musicians, and it's just going to be a really, really fantastic, great addition. And so for them to put $200,000 of their money into our community, I want to just, for one, say a great big thanks. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to play on it. That's all I got. One
more comment. I believe I missed something. We will probably be adding another Bourne Learning Trail, which those have been very successful as well. We have them at Lincoln and at Kiriakis Park. So a big thanks to United Way for those and PNC as well. So those have been very educating, and that's a big focus of United Way, is getting the kindergartners or getting children ready for kindergarten. That's been on the radar now for several years, and we found that kids are just not quite ready in a lot of cases for kindergarten. So anything we can do, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is really taken off as well with United Way. So kudos to United Way for getting this going and getting it through.
Dana, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to echo everyone, say thank you to PNC Bank and the United Way. Just such a great public-private partnership, and I'm really excited that we can pair this with our accessible park. And like Jeff was saying, just knowing in our community how we do have a shortage of early childhood education opportunities for many of our families, and that this really does fill a really important gap for kids, because we know that these early years are so important in order for them to be ready for kindergarten and for the rest of their educational experience. And I know when my kids were younger, they're older than 8 now, but I would have loved this this area, and I'm just so excited for our kids and our families, and just for the access for so many of our kids, that this will be really the only opportunity they get for an experiential learning opportunity that will help prepare them for kindergarten. So just thanks all around to everybody involved.
Any other comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning,
Yes.
Ash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yeah.
Wilkerson is yes. Next is the second reading of ordinance BG 2020 number 25. Ordinance relating to classification pay schedule. Ordinance amending classification pay schedule G for general classified employees and F for fire of the city of Bowling Green for fiscal year 2021. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. This was discussed at its first reading last time. Are there any additional questions or comments? I'll call the roll. Denning,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Next is the second reading of ordinance BG 2020 number 27. Ordinance relating to property taxes. Ordinance setting 2020 property taxes, franchise tax rates, and improvement assessment rates, and setting guidelines for payment penalty and interest. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. This is the second in our tax rates again for 15 years. Any comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes. Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson, yes. Both of those were second and final readings. First reading of the ordinance BG 2020-28, ordinance amending zoning ordinance. By Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mazel, you have a comment for this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is basically a laser-like approach to one section of the amendments that we were sent weeks back from the Planning and Zoning Commission. We wanted to take care of some businesses that were kind of in limbo out there concerning the zoning in OPC and OPR that to relate to personal service salons such as a hair salon or a nail salon, allowing those to be in the OPC as a use -1, and then going to the specific section and subsection 5.2.4.f.3.b concerning personal service oriented businesses, and it lists the hair, tanning, massage, personal care services, all in that category being allowed. So Hillary helped me work this out with planning and zoning with Hant Moore and their attorney. They got the wording together for this, and her memo was pretty self-explanatory on what we're trying to do here, and that is just to zero in on the one subsection allowing the uses in OPC and the conditional use in OPR. Hope that makes sense.
It does. I think we were all briefed on this ahead of time. Are there any further comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. The second reading will be our next meeting. Ordinance BG 2020-29. First reading of ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning tracts of land containing 0.8823 acres from highway business to RM3 townhouse multi-family residential to RM3 townhouse multifamily residential located at 0 Audi Court, presently owned by VGF Investments LLC, care of John Groves, and a portion of 5844 Scottsville Road, presently owned by CSR BG Investments, care of Chris Robertson. It's a motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. This is first reading by unanimous recommendation from Planning and Zoning. Are there any comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Denning?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. Have a second reading at the next meeting. Next is first reading of ordinance BG 2020 number 30, ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 1 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2021. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. Mr. Mazel.
I think that he got disconnected. Katie, maybe you could address this while he's getting back in.
I'll do my best. This is just the first budget amendment for fiscal year 2021. Primarily, as we normally do, we've got several donations, grants, and some cleanup as we closed out last year's budget and are in the new budget. So we're moving some project funds around to more appropriate funding accounts, capital project accounts. And we did get some land sales from the ITA, so that was paid on debt service. But for the most part, this is a pretty traditional budget amendment for the first one for the fiscal year.
Okay, did anyone have any comments or questions?
Hey, Bruce.
My screen
I've
is
got,
kind of gone blank, but you'll have to wait. Go ahead.
I've gotten about 3 or 4 text messages that the live stream has gone down. I don't know if maybe we could check with Hunter.
Sue, we are on that. It is
Okay.
back up and going now. And
Okay.
I'm working with IT behind the scenes. So
Thank you. I was just getting text messages from people, but, okay, thank you. Sorry.
Well, something's happened to my screen as well. I'm blank, but I can hear you.
Is the camera turned on? That the live stream is.
Okay, live stream is up, but I'm blank on my screen. Is everybody still there?
yes, Bruce, everyone's here.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions about the budget amendment?
Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Denning,
I think Hillary wanted to say something there.
Bruce, I think you're going to have to go back out and come back in. I think we need to be able to
okay,
see you as well.
let me get this vote. Okay, let me get this vote done and then we'll do that. Denning,
Yes,
Nash,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yes.
and a yes as well. So we'll take just a couple of minute break to try to get things squared away over here. Okay, I think I see everybody there. Just want to make sure I have everybody recorded as a yes vote on the budget amendment. If there's any objections, let me know. Okay, we'll pass 5-0, second reading the next time. Next is first reading of ordinance BG 2020-31. Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapter 25 Code of Ethics of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to amend subchapters related to definitions, standards of conduct, conflicts of interest in contracts, gifts, financial disclosure, Board of Ethics and penalties as recommended by the Board of Ethics and city staff. Motion by Wilkerson, second by Perigin. I think we've invited the Board of Ethics to be here with us today. I'd like to introduce those that are here with us at this time. I think Barry Pruitt is the chair, and I see Debbie Peoples, who also serves, and Jeff Stein is there with us. Am I missing anybody else, Barry?
No, that's all I see on here at this time.
Okay. Well, last fall, when we had dealt with an issue, you indicated that there were some problems with the ethics ordinance that you discovered as you were working through the issue at that time, and was going to work with your committee to come up with some proposed suggestions. And I presume that's where we are at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and if you would tell us what you've done and where we are at this point, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As you said, on November 4, 2019, I stood before you and delivered a message from the Board of Ethics. We weren't finished with our task and intended to submit recommendations for revising Chapter 25. Unfortunately, our task was delayed by the pandemic, although we continued through emails and started recently meeting again. And in recent months, the Board of Ethics has been able, through meetings, discussing revision, to address citizen concerns and remediate these procedural shortcomings. So in conducting our due diligence, we spent many hours deliberating the changes to foster accountability for our public officials and city employees. We sought legal advice through our city attorney and the special counsel. Now, as stated in Chapter 25, 1, the Declaration of Policy, the public judges its government by the way public officials and employees conduct themselves in the post to which they are elected or appointed. The people have a right to expect that every public official and employee will conduct himself or herself in a manner to preserve public confidence in and respect for the government he or she represents. Such confidence and respect can be best promoted if every public official and employee, whether paid or unpaid, whether elected or appointed, will uniformly treat all citizens with courtesy, impartiality, fairness, equality under the law, and avoid both actual or potential conflicts between the private self-interest and the public interest. Chapter 25-13, Section 2F states that the duty of the Board of Ethics is to enforce the provisions of this chapter with regard to all public officials and employees of the city and city agencies who are subject to its terms by issuing appropriate orders and imposing penalties authorized by this chapter. Our revisions are intended to honor fairness, promote trust and confidence within the city of Bowling Green. Pursuant to our responsibility, we submit these revisions to Chapter 25 Code of Ethics. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
I know that you've got a couple of other board members with you. Would either of them like to make a comment at this time before I open up for questions?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. I think Sue had her hand up first. Sue, so we'll go with you.
Yeah, to the Ethics Committee and Barry as the chair, this is not a question. I'm just going to make a small, short statement here on how much that I personally, and I know our community, appreciates the work that you all have done and continue to do. You've served us well, and I just want to say I know it's a tough spot and a tough job that you all have done over the last, what's it been, 15 months or so to revise this code of ordinances. So code of ethics, excuse me. So I just want to say thank you for all the hard work and dedication. And a group of volunteers are willing to sit down and spend this amount of time to help us to improve our city. It shouldn't go without saying thank you at least. Sorry, that's all I have, but just a big fat thank you. So thanks.
Joe, I think you had your hand up next.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Let me concur with what Sue just said. I know all the individuals personally and known Barry for 100 years. And I'm going to ask some questions in a hypothetical sense, not talking about any individual personally. And I do not want any of you on the Ethics Commission to take anything that I say personal that is not the intent. I will not do anything at any time, including tonight, to be disrespectful to any of you. And I want you to know that. I have some concerns pertaining to 2513 Section 4. Let me give an example. Old John Doe that works for the Bowling Green Parks and Recreation Department steals documents out of Ashley Jackson's office, the city clerk. This individual is caught by department or the sheriff's department or KSP, it doesn't make any difference. The individual is caught and charged, taken to jail, gets out on his own recognizance or a bond. At a later date, the individual has to come before the Ethics Commission. The individual comes before the commission and says to the board, Mr. Chairman, board members, guilty of I've been charged with. Yes, I'm an employee of the city of Bowling Green. My question is, will there be any other investigation of that individual after the individual pleaded guilty? Keep in mind, we are not in a court of law. This is a commission established by the mayor and the commissioners of the city of Bowling Green. In this particular case, what happens to that individual?
So you're asking on the criminal side of this or on the ethics, violation of the city's ethics policy?
His ethics policy, because the individual has not reached a judicial location yet. He's only before the Ethics Commission of the city of Bowling Green. Question is, the individual has said before the commission that, yes, I did that from the city office and I'm guilty. What happens to that individual that is standing before the Board of Commissioners?
Well, let me ask that. In the scenario that you gave, wouldn't an administrative hearing or a interdepartmental be more appropriate than that coming before the Board of Ethics at that time?
What has happened in prior individuals coming before the commission, Ethics Commission? Because that kind of opens a door. Let's say Joe Denning is that individual that raised his hand and said, yes, I have stolen out of Ashley's office and I'm guilty. I did it.
Mr. Denning, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I know what you're looking for here. You referred back to an incident. Here's what I will tell you is that in that particular incident, we went to the city attorney to ask questions because we were looking for some direction. Mr. Harmon at that time explained that he was also a representative, but by being the city attorney, he was also representing the Board of Commissioners and felt like it was a conflict of interest. So he could not answer our questions. So at that point, we felt like that our hands were tied, and that's why we reached out to outside counsel. So again, are we talking about, is this an administrative function? Because I think if it's a regular employee, Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong, would that would be done in your office?
If it was an employee, yes, that an ethical complaint was done and it was not a member of the BOC or a senior manager, yes, it would be something that I would handle. There would not be attorney's fees. I would be able to answer questions of the Board of Ethics. And if the person were to come in and say, I'm guilty of what is charged in this complaint, I don't believe that there would be a lot more process. The Board of Ethics would have the opportunity to recommend to Jeff and to you all what happens, or to say, we're going to let this be handled administratively through the city manager's office and through HR. So you wouldn't have the situation where there's a large investigation or a large attorney's fees or a conflict attorney in that particular case. Now, in the case that you mentioned, Joe, if you go into Ashley's office and steal something, then yes, we're back in a situation where if there's an ethics complaint, a special counsel is required. I would not be able to handle that, and we would have to bring someone in for that. Now, if we brought in special counsel and you came in and just said, yes, I stole this from Ashley's office, then yes, special counsel may have to answer a few questions. I think it would probably be, you'd be talking about much less of an investigation if the person were to just walk in and say, yes, I did what's alleged in this complaint. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Let me ask this. There was a complaint prior case by, I hope I'm saying it right, whom? Who? Was there an individual that called the Ethics Commission for a case to come before the commission? Are you telling me someone out there on earth called and said, so-and-so, so-and-so? How did the case come before the Ethics Commission?
I think what happens there is the complaints came in to the clerk's office and then they were referred to the chair of the ethics board. My recollection is in that particular instance, there were several from different individuals. Barry, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let's talk about the outside attorney for a few minutes. I'm a little puzzled by the fact that jurisdiction was local. All the paperwork pertaining to any charges was either at the Bowling Green Police Department or the Warren County Sheriff's Department, where we, the Ethics Commission, would have access to just in a matter of minutes. Would that point have prevented a call for an outside attorney? Asking.
I think Hillary answered that earlier when she said there might be a few questions, but probably nothing to the level of investigation.
And to the level of, that's the point I'm making. I want to make sure I'm understanding. Maybe a cutoff of $1,000. In other words, the individual has already said, I'm guilty, and all of a sudden, the committee is saying that they didn't have local counsel. I guess my next question, was the outside attorney on an hourly basis? How was the outside attorney contracted?
Can we backtrack just a little bit? What was the comment again about the council? I mean, about the special counsel with the local?
Oh, I didn't ask that. At least I don't. Thing being local.
Okay. I just want to make sure that there's the distinction between the criminal side and the ethics violation side. Okay, because there was a number of other allegations of the violation of the code of ethics that may or may not have been criminal. So then your question about was it an hourly rate? You answer that question?
Yes, I asked if the attorney's rate was an hourly rate when hired.
That's an hourly rate. Correct on that, Ashley?
Joe, to follow up on that, it was an hourly rate that the attorney who did the work is contracted with the Kentucky League of Cities for various items, and she accepted the KLC regular rate.
And that's fine. I have no problem with that, nor with the attorney. I guess here's my concern. I am trying to look at the picture. And in my mind, and in my eyes, the way I see it, the total picture is including the individual. When we talk about assessing legal fees, that's my subject now. Assessment of legal fees employees. We have a cross-section of employees that work for the city of Bowling Green. We have entry-level employees over here at $9, $10 an hour. We have all the way up to six-figure employees and commissioners at $10,000 a year job. I've been here 26 years, and I think now I make $16,000 a year. That's through raises over those years, cost of living, and so on. But someone coming in the door new is at $10,000 a year. We talk about the possibility based on charges against individuals. I'm not talking about criminal. I'm talking about the ethics committee. I don't know, and someone will have to tell me as to whether or not the ethics committee has their authority to assess fines. My question is, be a judicial function, and we hadn't reached a judicial function yet. But when you talk about all the employees across the board, are we saying with this document, yes, an entry-level employee may be assessed legal fees based on charges? Are we saying yes, $100,000 a year person may be assessed fees based on the charge? And we're saying a city commissioner may be assessed fees based on a charge. Jeff Mize has got his hand up. I don't know who's in charge, but Jeff?
Can I address the part about employees, Commissioner? Anything involving a crime or a misbehavior or wrongdoing on the part of an employee, as Hillary mentioned, is addressed by the department head and myself. I have fired employees in the past as a department head for committing crimes. One was a felony. I didn't want them hanging around and did not trust them any longer. And we called in the police to do the investigation, and they were sent home. Another example was extreme violations of our personnel policy manual. Some wrongdoing with what they were doing as part of their jobs, mixing it with other things. And we handled those situations and we took proper action, I thought. And that was when Kevin was the city manager. So we have department heads, we have an HR director, and then we have a city manager. So any employee issues that come along, whether or not they break the law or they break city policy, we're going to address those internally. And if need be, we'll bring them to you. If it's public safety, they require, if they need to demand a hearing, we'll give them a hearing. But in most cases, we address issues all the time with employees misbehaving, wrongdoings, violating city policy. And we rarely bring any employee issues to the Board of Ethics. I can't recall any employee-related issues that we have taken to the Board of Ethics. So this may be worded this way, but I can't do anything with anybody on the board. All I can handle is employees and department heads when they go astray. So I promise you that gets handled through due process with HR, with city attorney's office, and each and every one of those are looked at. We have an 800 complaint system that people can call in anonymous reports and that we look into and we handle and we resolve. And if those need to be asked to resign, we do that. So I hope that answers your questions on the employee side with making them pay attorney's fees, because it never gets to that point.
And Joe, I do want to say this too. If an ethics complaint were filed against an employee and a hearing was held, again, that would be me. That would not necessarily require special counsel. Special counsel applies if it's a BOC member, a senior manager, someone that I work closely with, Tammy in my office. You're not talking about any entry-level employee. I would not have a conflict of interest with an entry-level employee. The other thing I want to point out is that they're recommendations for you all. So first of all, for the Board of Ethics, it's discretionary. They're not required to assess attorney's fees. It is an option for them as part of a civil penalty. So it's not an automatic every single case they hear. The other thing is that it comes to the Board of Commissioners, and there are also appeals to the court. So there are some options in there. I just want to make sure you know that.
Thank you, Hillary. Going back, I certainly feel that when complaints before the Ethics Commission pertaining to an employee, that some type of a benchmark pertaining to that individual and that individual's salary range is taken in consideration, and suggesting that any type of fine be assessed on that individual. Now, I don't have any idea how you go about setting the benchmark based on a come before the Ethics Commission. Do you think?
Well, Commissioner Denning, how about we make it easy and we take the math out of it? If you don't commit an ethics violation, you don't have the thing to worry about. You won't owe a dime on this. You know, this is all about accountability and holding you all and holding everyone in regard, in high regard. You know, that's why we voted you in. That's why we put people in positions like that. You know, we hold them in high regard. So this is very easy. This is very simple. You don't violate the ethics policy, you don't have a thing to worry about.
I still say that we were voted in, but we are, by having voted us in, it gives us the opportunity and authority to ask specific questions when we need to know something. When I talk about fines, it bothers me in the sense one is authority in assessing those fines. What determination made as to how that amount comes about? Even in books of law, I mean, there are fines where they start, and you know this, Barry, from point to point based on the charge, and that is my concern.
And Joe, to address that, it doesn't say it is $1,000 fine, it says up to. So the Board of Ethics certainly has the ability, once they've reviewed everything, to see what is the nature of the violation so that they can consider that. How serious is it among all of the different types of ethics violations? Also, what is the employee's particular job, or if it's a board member, if it's an official, if it's one of our other board members, what is the nature? Are they serving on a board where they're not paid at all? And is it something that was maybe not intentional? These are all things the board would consider when they investigate and they impose that fine, and they're not required to impose a fine at all. I think it's one of the most important things about the Board of Ethics is that we get very ethical people that will consider all the potential penalties and all of whatever violation is committed with legal counsel, and then make that decision. And they do have the authority to impose that and to recommend that fine. But again, it comes back to you all. So it's not completely just unchecked discretion either. There are methods there to check what those recommendations are, and there are appellate processes in place.
So if I understand what's being said, there's always now, based on this discussion, be an outside attorney whenever, and then let me finish. Whenever an individual comes before the commission based on a charge, or at some point, the commission will say, we need to get an outside attorney. In other words, when a person is charged, they come before the Ethics Commission, is there going to be an attorney there at that point? Step one.
Be me, unless it's a conflict of interest. And a conflict of interest would be a BOC member, because as a city attorney, I represent the city, which includes the BOC member. So I could not then advise the ethics board if a BOC member is the person alleged to have committed the violation. If it were a city manager, if it were Mr. Meisel, if it's someone that I work with closely on a daily basis, that would be a conflict of interest. If it were a member of my own office, obviously if it were me. But if it's just another board member that I don't work with, if it's an employee, then I would be the person that would advise the ethics board. I think it's probably a rare situation where you would have a special counsel. I just don't think it happens very often.
So if I understand it right, anyone coming before the Ethics Commission that is not a BOC member or above, you are going to be able to be there with the commission.
Correct. Unless I have some sort of conflict of interest because I work with them daily. Right. It would be me.
Dana? Are you finished, Joe? Yeah, for a minute or two, yes, sir.
All right. Dana,
I just
thank
have a
you.
follow-up.
Next.
I just have a follow-up question on Hillary's statement. So I'm just confused because I've only been here for a little over a year, and we've already had a situation with an employee where we were going to have to hire a prosecutor. So I'm just confused because if it happens rarely, and I've only been here for a little over a year, we already had a situation where the city attorney would have had to recuse themselves. I'm unsure about. I'm just confused now.
Let me
Not
take
aware
that. That was in regard to one of our public safety departments where they have a right to a hearing. And when in that case, when they have a right to hearing and they hire their own attorney, Hillary, our city attorney, represents us at that point. So it's their attorney versus our attorney. So if we feel like we're not capable of handling that case, which was the case months ago, we were in defense and we called upon our KLC attorney to represent us in that personnel issue, if that's the one you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about one where we had to hire a local prosecutor. It didn't come to that at the very end. We didn't have to come to that, but we had to hire. We were going to have to hire a local prosecutor.
I can't recall which one that would be. I'm sorry. But in the cases where you get into what I was mentioning, a special hearing that they have the right to as far as police and fire, we do get into situations where we're hiring special counsel at that point, but that's the only time I can really think of it. If we have like an employee in any other department, like I said, it could be handled by our own city attorney.
So my other follow-up question, just a little bit confused, Hillary, are you saying that the attorney's fees is capped at 1,000 or it's unlimited based on the wording that's proposed?
Based on the wording that's proposed, it's not capped. The civil penalty fine part is capped at 1,000 as worded. The attorney's fees are not capped currently as it's worded.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have a comment or question?
I just have a comment that I wanted to make. One reason that I believe we are making this recommendation is that we didn't feel it was right for the taxpayers to pay if there is a violation, to have to pay those legal fees upon someone else's mistake.
Understand?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Dana, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I totally get Mr. Pruitt and Ms. Peoples and what they're saying in terms of, when people violate something, just don't do it. I think in terms of our situation that the fact that people can make anonymous complaints and the board needs to investigate all of them. And it could be something where, they really felt like they needed to hire someone to really figure it out because it was a complicated complaint. But that could be just maybe a political, now that they can somehow chart a political enemy, they could stick them with tens of thousands of dollars of legal fees. The Board of Ethics, instead of being something that really I think is protected as a very helpful body to really process through complaints and figure out, what happened here, because there is that cap at 1,000. I would hate to see this ethics board be used as to be weaponized and become a political issue, because then you're going to this unlimited attorney's fees. I think the fact that it's an ethics board dealing with ethics violations with the same sort of KLC recommended language about a fee up to 1,000. And, if it's a criminal case and maybe there is some money stolen, that's going to be handled in the courts. They're going to have to pay us back for that. They're going to be fined through the courts. But I just think in terms of keeping our Board of Ethics apolitical and making sure that it's really a body that can serve everyone, keeping this at this cap of 1,000. And the reason why that's the recommended language from KLC is that the reason why this language doesn't exist in any national model code of ethics is for that reason. In fact, the model language in the code of ethics that I found is the exact opposite. It says language of if someone is falsely accused and they have had to rack up legal fees to defend themselves, that the city has to reimburse the person who was accused. So I've seen language saying that we need to reimburse people who are accused, but there exists no model language saying that we should be asking people to pay unlimited attorney's fees that I've seen.
Commissioner, did you look at Seattle, Washington?
As I said, that I've seen, so I didn't see that one.
Did you look at Sacramento, California?
Clearly, I did not.
In the national. You said there was none others.
I said any of the national model. I didn't say cities that had it. I said national model code of ethics, including our Kentucky League of Cities, their model ordinance.
You know, just to comment on that, the Kentucky League of Cities, I think, has used several times the city of Bowling Greens as the model.
Yeah, and I think our existing code of ethics is very strong as is. I would agree.
Okay, Sue, did you have a question?
Just a clarification to Dana's comment there. Would we investigate as an ethical issue an anonymous complaint? I would think that an anonymous complaint would be a non-starter. You know, it's anonymous. If somebody can't stand behind what they're saying, then why would we take that up?
We do accept anonymous complaints, but you keep in mind that anonymity doesn't lend as much credibility as somebody who stands behind their comments, but we do accept anonymous complaints.
Well, I mean, I'm not a member of the ethics committee. Obviously, I'm on the board of commissioners here, but I would be very, very cautious to want to take up an anonymous complaint. If somebody has something to say, and I don't think any of the complaints that came in were anonymous, they're emails, and you know, and also social media. I mean, I wouldn't trust social media for ethics complaints, you know, because that's what we, you know, I mean, that's just somebody's opinion. So I don't know, Barry, maybe you could speak to that, how you feel about that.
Well, again, I've worked as, you know, in investigated cases before. Everything that's been said to this point, you know, one that's not anonymous would add more credibility, but I think you have to look at everything.
Thank you.
Jeff? I think you're still muted, Jeff.
Oh, am I still muted?
There you go. There you go.
You know, I think we need to consider what would be the standard at which it would elevate to the special counsel. If we're talking about weaponizing for political reasons, it's within the Board of Ethics' discretion as to whether they're going to pursue it, how far they're going to pursue it. If it reaches the special counsel stage, we've gotten to that point for a reason. And you know, I'd be curious, you know, let's assume we have a complaint that reaches the stage that a special counsel is required. How would anybody propose that those fees be paid and be fair to the taxpayers? You cap it at $1,000, that isn't going to cover much when you get into a complicated ethics matter. So why should it be capped? I mean, you're talking about a serious complaint. The Board of Ethics isn't going to refer a run-of-the-mill, anonymous, weaponized political complaint to a special counsel. There'd be no reason to do that.
Well, I think there's no way to, you know ahead of time sort of what situation we're going to be in. I think in this situation, we're all talking hypotheticals. So I just think whenever I'm making a vote on something, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it based on sort of what I can foresee as both sides of the pros and cons of each option that we have.
So how would you foresee the city recovering a substantial legal fee necessary to be paid to an outside counsel because of a substantial ethics violation? How would that be justified to taxpayers?
I'm just unsure of why we would ever need to run up a substantial legal fee for an ethics violation. I'm unsure about why we would ever need to do that.
Well, in a situation where the Board of Ethics is in need of information to do its job, and the city attorney is conflicted out for legal conflicts reasons, either the board can do its job or it can't do its job. If the only way to accomplish that function is to hire outside counsel, and the city commission approves that hiring, you know, you've reached the stage, the fees are what they are. You can't exactly hire outside counsel and say you can do $1,000 of work and you're done, and then claim that the Board of Ethics has done its job.
Well, I may be wrong, but I can't see very many people working for the city of Bowling Green that's going to be able to pay a large attorney fee. And like I said, I may be wrong, but
well, that may be true, but when you decide to run for office and you know what the city ordinances say and what conduct has to be fashioned in order to comply, I mean, that's a decision everybody has to make.
But I also have to consider if someone wanted me off of the board and they wanted to ruin my reputation, they could manufacture something and then unlimited attorney's fees 100 times more than I make as a city commissioner. I'm not choosing to become a commissioner because I'm unethical. I'm doing it because of the chilling effect of the power that people could have to ruin someone who's just, I mean, truly, city commissioners, we don't make anything. It costs us more to be a commissioner than it does to be it. And we're just trying to make the city a better place for our kids and our grandkids. And this, to me, just creates a chilling effect for good people who just want to make a good impact. Because to me, this really does, unfortunately, could weaponize something that currently I think is such an incredible, important part of making sure that everyone understands how important ethics are, that we have this body to be able to process those complaints and make sure that everyone is held to a very high standard. And I just think that this unintentionally would make it even harder to recruit really great people who want to serve.
I do think you brought up a good point earlier. I'll just throw this out for discussion because I obviously don't have the authority to or pass it. But yes, reimbursement of false claims essentially may make sense, but I think you have to include the flip side as well. If the city's got to reimburse somebody for a complaint made against them that turns out to be fraudulent, then the flip side, you have to pay all the fees that are associated with something that doesn't turn out to be fraudulent ought to apply as well. It may be something for us to consider.
Did we lose Joe?
Oh, no, I'm here.
Okay, I see.
Is it time for us to, have you already got some on the floor?
I think So's got another question before we go.
Yeah, just a quick statement here. I mean, I think that it has to be proven. Just because somebody makes an ethics complaint does not mean that we're hiring attorneys and things. The ethics committee, if I'm correct, looks at it dissects it, if there's no evidence, which if somebody just makes something up, they're going to have evidence to pursue that. So, you know, I actually had somebody make something up on me, and it went to the ethics committee. And I went there and I answered the questions, and it was manufactured. And I didn't think another thing of it. Went about my business. You know, it just doesn't seem to me that an ethics committee is going to run with some complaint without some concrete evidence or some deep dive to see whether or not that is substantiated before we start hiring attorneys and things. Any ethics committee member can answer to that, but I would like to know.
I'm confused, Sue. I don't know what you're talking about. You saying prior discussions were based on official claims? I'm lost.
No, I'm addressing what Dana said, that the ethics committee could be weaponized against a political opponent. I find that hard to believe, but if it happened, I don't think the ethics committee would start by hiring attorneys. I think they would start by substantiating the claim, by actually looking into it and seeing, is this just somebody making something up on somebody? Or is there a real ethics violation here that we can prove? Now, Barry, you can answer to that, or?
Let me say this. If the ethics board were to even hire counsel and follow up on something like that, if they were to find there was not a violation, no attorney's fees would be imposed. What they're proposing is only to have this as part of a civil penalty if an ethics violation is proven. That's the proposal.
Okay. Thank you.
And Hillary, I have a question. The way it's written now, is there an appeals process?
Appeals process in the ordinance, yes. Yes, so there are checks and balances to this. This isn't an end all be all with the ethics board.
So if we weaponized something, there is another step, an appeals process.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That appeals process, Hillary, means that the recommendation goes to the full city commission, and then if it's not satisfied, it goes to circuit or district court.
Correct. Goes to the circuit court, I believe.
Okay.
I just want to just say, Mr. Pruitt, I feel like maybe you felt like I was trying to insinuate that you all would weaponize that, and I don't think that for 1 second. I'm just truly trying to think thoroughly about this change and how it could impact our community, because you won't always serve on that board. I think y'all are great. So I'm just thinking, you know, in the future, things that could happen. So I apologize if you felt like I was saying that about you all, because I don't feel that way at all.
No, thank you. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, we want to do the right thing here. The way that the ordinance was written currently had never been tested. When we went through a incident, we found some things here. That's why we're here. That's why we're here tonight. Today, you know, it's about accountability and the best interest of the citizens of Bowling Green.
And I agree with that. I think all of us, Barry, want the same thing. And if you remember at the very beginning, what Joe Dennon said, I said, this is a discussion. It's nothing personal. All three of you are friends of mine, and I hope after tonight we'll still be friends. And but we've got a decision to make, Mayor, and I've got a motion if it's appropriate.
You have a motion? Yes, sir. Go ahead. We have one on the floor, so you're amending a motion.
Yes, sir. My motion is to remove all proposed changes in 2513, Section 4, page 9 in our packet. I further ask, as a part of that motion, that manager and his staff work with Ethics Commission establishing some type benchmark clearing that we all can work with. Don't know what that is. I'm asking that the group get together, and I would say immediately after the first of the year in 2021. You know, old Joe Denny may not be here, but whoever is here in January, work with the staff, commission, continue the work that they're doing, and that's all I have to say.
I'll second that.
That's my motion.
All right, the motion is to delete all penalties from the ethics board ordinance.
No, it's just to amend the changes is how I understand it.
Well, the changes includes all of chapter 4. I thought that's what he said.
We still keep the $1,000
I mean, all
fine.
of section, all of section 4. Joe, you've lost me. You said you wanted to get rid of all of section 4 in the penalty phase, which means that there are no penalties for any violations. So help me understand what it is you're wanting to do.
It's my understanding, what I heard was that he's wanting to remove the changes in that section and retain the original fines. Is that what you were saying, Joe?
I think it was issue window order requiring the violator to pay a civil penalty of not more. Before is what deleted.
Are you wanting to take out the attorney's fees or take out the $1,000 and the attorney's fees?
If you want to leave out just the attorney's fees, Joe, that's the middle of page 9 under the new section 4.
I'm looking at
where it says the word "and" right after the number 1,000 and ends at the word violation. And then the other thing is the last line on the bottom of page 10 that says "and/or legal costs" at the end of that sentence at the very bottom. If that's what you're wanting to do.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
We have a motion. We have a motion to amend on the floor. I'm just trying to clarify what that is.
I am looking at section 4. I am reading every word. I'm confused. If I'm talking about eliminating section 4, then I am talking about everything.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
When
Let's
I
vote
was
on it.
seconding, so when I was seconding just what I thought he said was the changes proposed in section 4. So if you're saying just remove the whole thing, then I don't second that. I just thought you said the changes. My apologies.
What?
I thought you were proposing just to remove the changes in that section and to retain the original language in section 4, and then to bring everyone back to then talk about the attorney's fees at a later date. That's what I thought I'd understood your.
Bring everyone back and what? I couldn't hear you.
What was your question?
Everyone back.
So
Everybody back.
I thought you said bring everybody back after January 2021. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, well, what the motion I have is to remove the section 4 penalties, which, and I don't have a second for that. I've got a second for something that hasn't been moved, but I don't know what we're trying to straighten out here, what we're trying to get rid of. All of it, none of it, some of it. And Joe, it's up to you. It's your motion on the floor.
I know. Are you
It's your
talking?
motion. You're up on the floor, Joe. You said all of section 4. Is that correct?
On just a minute. You gonna second, Dana, but leaving the $1,000 there?
I would second a motion to leave the original language and then come back to the changes later. Yes, sir.
Leaving the whole section 4, and have Ethics Commission to come back with changes to that section?
Well, it's whatever you said about whatever you were wanting to bring everybody back for. You'll have to explain what you meant by that part. I'm just saying I would second retaining the original language in section 4. Which includes up to $1,000 fine.
I have no problem with it if you already are in agreement with it. I have no problem with it.
Well, I don't really know what we're doing, so I'll go back to what my original question was. You have a motion to remove all of section 4 penalties, but I don't think that's what you ended up talking about. You're talking about in section 4, under subsection B, paragraph 4, where it talks about after the word $1,000 and the words, and at the sole discretion of the Board of Ethics, requiring the violator to pay a portion of or all of the legal costs incurred by the Board of Ethics and or the city agency in relation to the violation. Is that what you're asking to take out? It leaves everything else that the Board of Ethics has recommended the same. It just is taking out lawyers' fees.
Yes, what you said, Mayor.
Okay, that also includes on the next page on the bottom of 9, on the last line towards the end, it says and or legal costs. Removing that as well.
I'll see there, where are you?
On the bottom of page 9, which is under now 25-14, section 1, the last line on that page.
It's the bottom of page 10, I do believe.
7. Somebody said 7.
The bottom of page 10.
10. That's right, 10.
Oh, okay, I'm looking on page 9, bottom page 10. Okay.
The last line, it says and or legal costs.
We want to take, I am sure the legal costs, that's what we were talking about when we were talking about 1,000 up front there, weren't we not?
I think that's what you're trying to say, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to make sure that we got the right language in that you're trying to remove.
Mayor, would you mind repeating the whole thing one time, just so I know, make sure I understand what I'm seconding, if I agree to that or not?
I understand. On page 9, which is following up from section 4 penalties, subsection B, paragraph 4, right after the number 1,000, we would be striking beginning with the word and these are the words that we're striking, and at the sole discretion of the Board of Ethics, requiring the violator to pay a portion or all of the legal costs incurred by the Board of Ethics and/or the city and/or the city agency in relation to the violation. That's where it ends. And then there's also a reference to legal costs at the bottom of page 10. And that's what I think Joe is trying to remove. Is that accurate, Joe?
I think it's accurate, based on what I said on page 9. Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we all understand, and I have a motion on the floor from Joe to amend ordinance 2020-31 in its first reading to delete references to the legal costs incurred by that person found in violation. Is that what you're seconding, Dana?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any other questions about the amendment, which is what we're going to vote on? Jeff Stein, did you have a question?
One question is all the other language that we've amended, does that need to be voted on to accept it so that we can work with a clean version, but for this one change?
That's what I'm trying to do, is make sure all the work that you've put into cleaning up the entire ordinance isn't damaged by this amendment.
Right.
Are there any other questions or comments? Then this vote that we're taking now, a yes vote is to remove language that would require someone found in violation of the ethics code would not have to reimburse the city for the legal costs. So that's what I'll be calling for a yes or no vote on. Denning?
Yes.
Nash?
Sorry, yes.
Perigin?
No.
Beasley Brown?
Yes.
Wilkerson is no. So the amendment passes. Now the first reading of the ordinance, as it's been presented and now amended, is what we'll be voting on. Is there any additional comments or discussion? I'll call the roll for voting for the ordinance as amended.
I have a question, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought there were some recommendations by maybe Ashley and Jeff around some other parts of the ordinance.
There were some recommendation to clean up some language, just make it more consistent throughout the ordinance. There was also a recommendation with gifts. There was a loophole that did not address giving someone something in order that would be an ethical violation. So if you accepted a gift directly or indirectly, but we also, if you ran into a position where a city employee gave something that benefited them, that could also be an ethics violation. So the rest of mine and Ashley's were just clean up language. It was trying to get things consistent, language, words, definitions consistent throughout the ordinance.
I didn't see those. Have I missed it?
In the beginning, I recommended that we separate the definition of public official and employee. I felt like those are significantly different if you're a public official or an employee. So we separated those definitions. Separated then and made consistent throughout. Also, the gift part is in 25-8, paragraph 2. We added no public official or employee shall offer, give, or accept any gratuity.
Are those changes not in what we have been presented here?
Should be, yes.
Okay.
If you look on page 4, in paragraph 2, under
Yeah.
gift, should be underlined. It says offer, give, or accept.
Yeah, those changes were already in here.
Right.
I don't think we're making any other amendment.
I think that we just hadn't discussed them, so Dana just wanted to clarify what those were. Is that right, Dana? Okay.
Yeah, I was, in the memo, it said we had a lot more changes other than that one, but that's the only change we had discussed. So I just want to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding all the changes that are still in the ethics code of ordinances that we are changing.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Again, we'll be voting on the full ordinance or ethics ordinance changes subject to the amendment that takes out the violator reimbursing the city for the cost of the investigation of the attorney's fees. So I'll start with Denning.
No.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Beasley Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson is yes. First vote
Yeah,
is passed and it's, sir,
Got confused on the amendment vote, which we voted no.
you voted yes on the amendment.
Yes, yes.
Yes on the amendment.
And what we voted on this time was the ordinance that included the amendment that you proposed.
Well, I want to vote yes.
Okay. So that first vote is
And-
completed. It's not binding, and we will vote on it at the next commission meeting. I want to thank the Ethics Board for their appearance and attempt to help us work through the difficult situation that we've all had to deal with for the last year or so with regard to this. So thank you for taking your time to look so hard at it. That our next meeting will be October 20th, which is 4 weeks from today. So look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for tuning in.